Hello, I have two more questions for Anita Fevang. Firstly, what right do you have to take other people's children, to take away their fathers, to systematically threaten them on a daily basis for years on end, and force them to suicide themselves without even asking the parents' permission? Right do you have to steal other people's children and force them to suicide themselves in such obvious circumstances like you're doing to my son Benjamin? Now, um, perhaps also you could consider the next question, which is the fact that this is clearly part of a much bigger problem, and the fact that you've been working so hard to cover up, all these crimes in your past, also points to another very serious crime, Anita. That this is basically the tip of a giant iceberg. That there are thousands of other cancer patients out there who are struggling with head injuries, enduring the same extreme circumstances of terrorism, threats, and isolation as I have. In other words, this is part, or I am part of a much bigger problem. And that might explain why you've been working so hard to intimidate my son, to threaten him and silence him, to stop me gathering information about this crime, and stop me gathering information and evidence about you that could reveal the truth about what is happening, not just nationwide, but worldwide. That this is a massive worldwide problem that you have helped to expose. And you clearly don't seem very happy about helping to expose this crime in light of the extreme terrorism, threats and blackmail that you've exposed my son to in order to try and silence him. But I can assure you that you have exposed an absolutely gigantic crime here that's happening worldwide. And as I say, this clearly explains your desperate, frantic attempts to threaten my own son on a daily basis, force him to suicide himself as well as myself, in order to hide all the evidence of the crime that you've committed, and hide any evidence of the fact that this is happening to lots of other people. Now, with that in mind, I hope you can go away and think about what's happening here and the reality of this situation, the reality of the extreme abuse, which is nothing short of just completely criminal. And let's face it, Anita, if the Norwegian police are helping you do this, if they're helping you cover up brutal murder attempts, helping you cover up GBH caused to your son, and all these butchery and mutilations caused to innocent people like myself through your extreme terrorism and murder attempts, and cover up, like this awful suicide incitement of your father, while you try and force your own son to suicide himself. If you're literally encouraging the police to help you commit all this crime and just murder people, which amounts to nothing more than serial murder, basically, as if you're lining up people one after the other to force themselves to suicide themselves, force themselves to take their own life, like the way you have to myself in such extreme circumstances, taking away my son and forcing me to suffer like this in isolation, and the same case with my son, just taking away his father and forcing him to suffer in isolation. This is, as I say, a very clear indication of what's happened to your father. UK police know that, Norwegian police know that, everybody knows that, you know that, I know that. And at the moment, this is no secret to anybody anymore. And quite clearly, all your campaign of threats and terror has achieved is to basically expose the truth. And with that in mind, as I say, I think you should go away, think about the unnecessary, awful harm that you've caused to innocent people, and stop threatening my son, stop subjecting him to this ridiculous campaign of terror on a daily basis that's been going on for 6 years now, and stop thinking to yourself and imagining that you are helping to cover up crimes committed by other people and yourself. As I say, which only points to a massive global, worldwide criminal exploitation of vulnerable people. And on that note, I hope you can do something to start respecting my son and give him some dignity back, including myself. Thank you very much.